My name is Beth Guide. I'm with Vertical Web, and today's topic, we're going to be doing all the words you need to know, A to Z. It's going to try to be an ultimate list. I do not think I will get through all the terms. If anybody has a question or doesn't understand what I'm saying, please, let me know and stop me, because these are like all the words that you would hear that you really probably should know what they are, and then we can kind of go from there. So where I want to start with is I'm going to try to do Google related and conversion related words first, okay? And then I'll come back and do like program related words, like technologies and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of change this list up a little bit. So the very first thing you should know is when somebody tells you, and in fact, frankly, if any of you want to participate, I might just kind of do it this way. Does anybody know what above the fold is?
No.
Okay. So back in the day, newspapers, when you fold them in half, the top section of that newspaper used to show, and when you would lay a newspaper out, you would want your copy of the most important story to be what was called above the fold. On a website, when you go to the web page, it's what appears in that full browser window when you load the screen. So your most important messaging needs to be what is called above the fold, so that if the end user opts to not scroll down, which most don't, they get your most important marketing message, or they get engaged in the page. So you always want to make sure you have a learn more, or click here, or contact us, your phone number, anything that would be important needs to be at the top half of a website, so that when you load it. Now I have a big 27-inch iMac, so when I load a screen, I get more than what you would get on a laptop. When I load something on my laptop, sometimes I only get, and let me bring up a share a screen here. Let me just see if I have a Chrome window going on here. I do. Chrome. Yeah. You never can put your hands on the window when you want it, huh? I'm trying to find the Chrome because they do it better. Here we go. Okay. So if I go to a website, any website, let's just randomly pick one that I may or may not be involved in. Let's go to Nike.com. So when I go to Nike.com, you all should be able to see my window. They have this nice little movie thing here. They've got all this information here, and then you'll see they've got this little saying that says, join us, co-founder Phil Knight. If you never looked anywhere else but here, you would not need to go anywhere else, because you can buy your shoes from the top. You can see what they have to offer. And you really, this frame is all you need. If you opt to scroll down, they've got some things and all, but that's the bulk of it. So that's what above the fold means. You want to make sure that your most important messaging here is in frame. So I've got somebody, hold on one second. All right, okay. So that's that one. So that's the first one we're going to tackle today, is that. The next one, which is not a design, we're going to jump out of design for a minute, and we're going to talk about Google. And you hear a lot about what is the Google algorithm, or what is they updated the algorithm. And the answer to that question is, an algorithm is a mathematical computation that a computer does to go through and make a determination of what should appear first, is one way. It can be done for a search function. It can be done to update pricing. There's a whole bunch of things that can be done with an algorithm, okay? But at the end of the day, it's a mathematical computation. And in Google's case, they have about 200 and some very important items that they factor in that go into that algorithm that produce the number one listing. The other thing is they're weighted. So things like a title tag counts more than if I put my address in the middle of my page somewhere. So items, certain parts and anatomies of this, and we talk about this from a technical side, we talk about this from a content side, we talk about this from a structure side, we talk about this several different ways, okay? But what the Google algorithm is a mathematical computation of these 200 and some odd factors weighted to be able to produce who should be number one and who should be number 550, a relevant website in the whole world. Google also often goes through and they make changes to that algorithm. Sometimes they change it at its core, and that wreaks a lot of havoc. Sometimes they just update it to say, hey, if we see this behavior, we want that weighted more of a penalty than as a positive. Sometimes it's granular, sometimes it's the whole thing. And then they'll go in sometimes and they refresh it and they restart it all. So sometimes that causes a shakeup. But overall, the algorithm itself is the backbone of what Google is. And I can always say, come back to, it's my three-legged stool, which is links, structure, and content, you know. So when I have those three things and I have them all done right, there's a whole sidecar to all of that. But if they're all done right, chances are you're going to land in a pretty good spot with your page if you meet all of those objectives. So are we good so far? Okay, moving to the next one. All right. The next one, everybody should have this running on your web, this is like a freebie tip that if you're not doing this, it's kind of a big deal. Everybody should have AMP pages on their website, okay? And what AMP pages are is accelerated mobile pages. And what that is a really snazzy way of saying they're smaller pages, they're the content of your homepage laid out in a format that's specifically for an iPhone or for a tablet. Don't get that confused with a responsive design. A responsive design changes with the size of the browser. So if I make my browser bigger, I actually think I can probably do this here with this Nike one. If I make my browser smaller, you guys now have a smaller version of my screen, and you see the screen is somewhat shrunk to accommodate my smaller screen size. If I make it bigger, it moves to accommodate my larger screen size. So that's a responsive design. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about accelerated mobile pages, which is a shadow group of pages that are specifically pulled up when you hit a website with a mobile device. What I will say is don't monkey around with those pages, meaning don't try to serve different results to a mobile user than you do to your regular desktop user. I try to keep those items, synchronized. I don't let them get out and get them that I have one version of a page one way, one version of a page other way. But I think that everybody should have it. Some people say that AMP is not really required anymore. And what is it? What is its value? I wouldn't not want to have it. I have it on all our sites. We keep it on there. I think there is a value to it. And I think that, Google's looking at how fast something loads, and there's always been this question on how valuable AMP is. But I just say I would do it for the sake of doing it because it gives your user a faster experience. It lets you have a little bit better control. And I still think Google knows that you have them there and what's going on with them. All right. So the next one is Analytics. All right, so Google has their analytics program, and they have had the same analytics program forever. They went in and they purchased, I can't remember what their name is, Urchin, it'll come out eventually. Many years ago, they purchased a company called Urchin, and Urchin was probably the Cadillac of log parsing software on the market back in in the 2000s. And Google purchased it. They bought it online. They called it Google Analytics, and they've kind of been using the same version ever since. In July of next year, Google Analytics, as we've known it all this time, is going away. The biggest point to know about Google Analytics going away is everybody needs to put their G4 Google Analytics in now, or you will not have the historical value on the website. They are wiping out the history of these websites. So I'm going to kind of make some suggestions here for you guys. First of all, run them in tandem. You can keep your regular Google Analytics now, but get the G4 set up. In fact, I'm going to have a class probably a little bit closer to the end of the year that talks about how to set up G4 start to finish. I think that it's something that probably everybody that I've ever come in contact with needs to know anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I just haven't I'm thinking, fourth quarter, just so you can kind of keep an eye out on what I may get there sooner, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. But the other thing that I've done, and I'm glad I did it, is I have a secondary stat program that I put on all our customers, and it's called Stat Counter. It's a plugin for WordPress. It drops into several different platforms, but it drops into WordPress, and it's what is a log parser. So I want to kind of explain what the difference between analytics and a log parser are, because I think that's another piece of this that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. Analytics analyzes and makes some interpretations and takes some liberty with the visitors that come to your website. So I could go to a website 50 times in a day, and Google doesn't say that person went there 50 times a day. They know I'm there. They know I'm there once, and that's how I kind of get counted. I may get counted in the page views. If I'm from, I don't know, Kuala Lumpur, they're more likely to think that might be a bot and disqualify me. So they disqualify traffic sometimes because they don't think it's valid. Sometimes they count things, but just understand that analytics is analyzing and interpreting your data, and it's not unfiltered. Okay. The Stat Counter program is unfiltered. It takes every visit, every hit, everything, as long as the full page loads, and it gives you full oversight of that. What my staff likes about it is there's a visitor path. They use the visitor path. It's so like they can see, so they're not wasting time on it. Maybe this person or maybe that person. It gives them straight up insights as to what each visitor on that website does every day. Whether it be 100, 1,000, 10,000, you can look down them and know what the behavior of every person that came to the website was in a much more easily and digestible way, in my opinion, than to pull this out of analytics, because I can actually do it on a user by user level, where analytics is a little bit hard to get down to that level. So that's just, it's a personal opinion. But that's just something that we kind of have done here, and we kind of think that that's an easier row to hoe. I also like the fact that it's not put through Google's filter. So we kind of balance the two out against each other, and we'll say, okay, so analytics said we have this, Stat Counter says we have this, Stat Counter's raw, we understand that, we're going to interpret the data. Analytics does its interpretation of the data, and then we can kind of marry them all and see, because it's really important in the long run to understand what a user does on your website. I think that you're flying blind if you really don't know what somebody's doing. Did they come there because they needed to change something? Did they come there just for general information? I have one page in particular on my website that gets hit, 40, 50 times a day. I'm going to put an ad on that for web hosting at some point, because it's a Squarespace page that people are using my website to get information that Squarespace is not giving them. So eventually I'm going to put an ad on that page, but the only way I would know it is to go through the stat counter program and see that I have all these people coming in from all over the place. And what they're doing is they're then proceeding to come back and look everywhere. All right, this says, is Google going to have another way to see analytics? Yes, it's going to go to what they're calling G4. Okay, so you can set up your G4 account now. Okay, I'm saying do both now. If you're running WordPress, it's really easy. Google has a SiteKit account. You can drop a SiteKit plugin on your website and run the SiteKit, and it will set up G4 and it will set up regular Google Analytics. You have the choice to set up either or both with the SiteKit. So if you put the plugin Google SiteKit on your website, it will put and install both for you. So most of mine have both data on it now as we've set them up. My older customers don't, so I'm going to need to go ahead and figure out what I'm going to need to do to capture all of that. But the newer customers all have both set up and have for a while. So that's just a warning and advise on the analytics side that they're just going to take away years of data, which is kind of horrible and terrible in a lot of ways to me. But it is what it is. We're using a program that doesn't belong to us, so therefore we're at their mercy is what they do with it. What I will say is the stat counter account, I have years worth of data stored in there now too. That data won't go away because I have log files and keep my log files big enough to keep those trends and tracking. So that's another piece of this if I can add that as well. So that's another piece. No, there is no cost to G4. It's just no different than Google Analytics. It's just their latest level of it. So it's Google Analytics Universal and then Google Analytics, which they're calling GA4 is what they're calling it. So it's Google Analytics 4 instead of Universal. I think that's a big point to me, to be honest with you, is the change in analytics. I think it's going to be a big change. And I really don't like the fact that I'm losing my historical data because, how do I say this? I can look back at something 2 years ago and 3 years ago and say, hey, you know, this is sometimes a year is not enough to create a trend feeling because something kind of goes down and you don't know it till it comes back out a year later. And I say, well, July of last year, this was going on. July of this year, this is going on. So we're going to lose some of that. So I'm really strongly urging everybody to be preemptive and to do this now and get yourself set up. And I would make sure that you had the best ways you can to get historical data on these accounts would be the time to do it. Okay, so Google Analytics. The next one I want to talk about is authorship and author authority. Okay. And I think, and as I'm giving you these, I'm giving you them because I think these are some things that are often also overlooked as well. Every website should have a person. And what I'm going to caution on this side is I would make it be the business owner if you were working with an entity small enough to have a business owner still involved and not a management suite and a big corporation. So I don't know, you know, what everybody's personal circumstances are, but I would make sure you had one person. Now, if you have, like, my company is me because I own my company. Yes, I have employees. No, it's not them. Everything gets published under my personal name. Okay, just so we know what that's about. Now, what I will say is that some of you, if you're larger and you have marketing departments, a way around what I'm talking about is to create a person that will transcend whoever sits in the marketing director's chair. We had a Dish Network affiliate and we made up a person. We gave them a birthday. We gave them a profile. We gave them interest. For all intents and purposes, he looked like a real person, so that he ran social media. He ran the website. Everything that we posted was posted to him, because what it does is it starts to build up an author authority. Myself, because I'm like all over the place, I'm giving talks, I have podcasts, which are hints on how you build this up. I have podcasts, I'm teaching these classes, my name comes up, my name's a brandable name with actual searches attached to it. I have an authority, but I had to build up that authority. And what that is when I speak, and I put something on my website and it's attributed to me, Google understands that I am speaking from a position of knowledge, authority, and credibility. So there is a trust factor about me that just Johnny off the street doesn't have. If you are a financial person, if you are in the health industry, if you are a legal person, that's even more important. So my lawyers, they are the posters on their website. So we make sure that those have well-developed personalities and profiles put out on the website. Engineers. So anything in a professional capacity, I think that it's even more important. But everybody should have a person with a developed personality that is in the forefront to understand that they're the one that's in charge of everything, you know, that they're the voice of authority. That is a ranking factor. The author authorities, when I put something up, it immediately ranks higher just because I did it. And I've worked a long time to get the reputation that I have, and that it is that important. And I see us sometimes hop over things and I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe we hopped over Verizon. And the reason we hopped over Verizon is because Verizon is being posted as just Verizon with no person behind it. I'm being posted as me. And I have a bigger reputation. I mean, so everything from TV to press to you name it. So I'm not saying that everybody is as blessed as I've been to be able to get it out as far as I am. But I do think that you all need to pay attention to that. So if you have a business owner, that's who should be propped up. If you don't have a business owner because you're too big, I think you have to create one, or create a doctor, or create something that is the person of authority on the website, and make sure they're trustworthy. I have a medical company now that they have a doctor working for them. I'm going to utilize that doctor because that doctor has been friends with my business owner since they were 6 years old. So there's enough of a relationship after 60 years or 55 years, whatever that age is, that I'm comfortable using the doctor instead of the business owner on this because they've been friends since first grade. So you got to make those kind of decisions. But I think when you're looking and you're sitting in a brand, in a business, you need to pick a face, create a face, and that needs to be the face because you have to have this authority. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is backlinks. Actually, I'm going to actually not talk about backlinks. I want to double back into anchor text a minute here. This is an important concept, and it ebbs and it flows. Historically, it's come in vogue and then it's left, and it's come in vogue and it's left. And I'm going to tell you that I don't think it's actually ever really gone anywhere. So what anchor text is using my little, let me see if I can find a good example. Let's see. I try to use agnostic things that are not going to upset people. All right. So if I look at CNN, okay, you all see the page there. When I do this and put my mouse over, this anchor text says contact lost with Ukrainian forces over wherever the heck that is. This one, Fed is about to make history again. All these words on your page are what they call anchor text. Now, you would not normally implement this the way CNN does. I just wanted to go to a place that there was an egregious overload of it. If I go to, let me see, let me just use this one. This is a, you know what, this is a really old example of what not to do. Okay, and then I'll explain to you why it's this way. Sometimes when I do things in hyperbole, it makes the point. Everybody's, yeah, okay, look, everybody looked horrified. I see that. I saw this is anchor text on steroids. And what this is a keyword that links to a page. Yeah, you're laughing because you've seen this site before. I know, right? This is anchor text. These are keywords that link to a page about the keyword. So if I click on this, oh, it says page not found. Okay, not my problem on that one. Let's go to another one. Let's try another. Maybe they're all broke. Okay, so this one was trucks and truck jacks. I clicked on it, went to pallet trucks and pallet jacks. Okay, so it's a whole page on those items. And then if you look, when I get to this page, this goes to another pallet truck. And okay, this is not working either. This site's really old, so apparently it's up, but it doesn't work in some spots. I'm not affiliated with this in any way, shape, or form. It's just, it's a great example of what not to do, but it's also an example of when I talk about anchor text, this is what we used to do to a website. And just by the sheer fact we would create so many internal links, what would happen is we would have the page rank because there were so many internal links linking together this way. We don't do this anymore, but you still want to have some of these basic principles. So let's just, I'm going to use my own website. This thing is the most right because it's the most recent, if you will. Okay, so let me lower that and kill that. All right, so anchor text, web hosting, anchor text, web design, anchor text, web marketing. Those go to a page on web design, okay? Inside this page to web design, I wrote my page mindful. Now you see above the fold, if we go back to above the fold, I have our portfolio and our contacts are right above the fold. So if you don't want to scroll anything other than, how to contact you, and how to contact you and or how to, what our portfolio is, great. You can just live in the top half of that page. All right. So I got to mute that one because, yeah. Okay. So with that said, as you come down in this page, okay, you can see that we have words built in and then they're linked up. If you come all the way down here, these eventually will go to pieces. I haven't written all these pages yet, but as we do these pages, these words will be hot linked to pages that correspond to what they're about. Okay. And we do this, and we also do this in the text so that we have this web design developer page. We took the web developer page and did it within the text. So you want to do it in the text and you want to do it in the headers when you can. So what this does is scream to Google, hey, I have a page. It looks like it's a page about web development. I get to the web development page and it's a page about web development. So all these things are in sync. So Google now has some trust that this is a web development page, and then therefore they rank that web development page higher. I keep muting you, Brad, because we have background noise. So if we can, because it's cutting out everything. Okay. So with that, all right. Okay, with that said, that is how we do anchor text. You can see it. I have it here, SEO company. They are basically key terms that signal Google that the next place it's going to go is going to be a web design page or an SEO page or whatever the anchor text says it matches up to. Okay, so that's that piece of it. So and now let's go to the next. So we all should at least understand when I say, what is anchor text? We all kind of know what I'm talking about. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is backlinks. Okay. Backlinks are links from somebody else that point to your website. And you want to have them. So one way we tell localized businesses is join a chamber of commerce. There's several chambers of commerce in town that do the job very well. There's several chambers of commerce in town that does the job very badly. The link credit from a chamber of commerce dramatically helps your website. So you want to have links, if at all possible, so that you can have links from them to you. The links, look at them as votes or endorsements, okay? And I'd actually almost rather have them looked at as endorsements than votes. Because if somebody, let's say, if I'm in the sports world, if Nike comes and links to me, let's say I'm a golf person, okay, and I'm Tiger Woods. If Tiger Woods endorses Nike, that's a powerful link. If Beth Guide says use Nike, it's great. I endorse them, but I have no expertise in the subject of golf. I can't even tell you about a golf club. Okay, so with that said, those links tend to flush through the system. They move along. The more powerful they are, the more that endorsement helps, the better off everything is. So you want to work towards getting quality links to your website. When we used to be with the SBDC, they would run ads for our internet marketing class in the Houston Chronicle. So I have links from the Chronicle, from ads that were placed. I have links from them to us. I have links from the local Fox affiliate because I'm on the TV. I have links from multiple chambers of commerces because I work with them. I've got links from HCC because I work with them. I also have links from large news organizations for places that we've appeared. We did an initiative at the beginning of COVID to get some TV sets with one of our providers. They were able to give us some carts, and we took them into nursing homes. So we got national attention for that nursing home visit. So you got to be thinking out of the box on how to get these backlinks. But these backlinks are life. They're like blood to a website. So if you don't have them, you can have the best SEO and be what I'm going to be called link poor. Okay. You can offset some. Now, some people will disagree with me as I say this, but after 21 years, I'm pretty sure I'm right. You can offset the loss of not having great links by having really good, strong internal links. Okay. So there's ways to distribute the power of your website down through your website, just simply by the way things are linked up. And then what few links you do have coming in, if they work out right, it sends the power to multiple other pages. So there is a way to work around having it, but you actually have to know to that degree. But, run a press release for your business. I know it sounds a little cliche, but at least you'll pick up some backlinks that way. Join a chamber of commerce. That picks up that way. If you're not part of one, you need to be part of one because you'll get links there. I despise the BBB for a lot of reasons, but you can get a backlink there. So you always want to be, if you can have a relationship with a vendor, your vendor relationships, if you sell TVs and you can get a link from Samsung, great, please do so. Wherever you can get a link from, or an organization. I have a not you, Chandra, but I have another printing company that they do some political printing. So they have some links from political parties and some people that got elected. They have links from them to their website. So that helps support their website. So just understand there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, and you have to be mindful of it. I really probably could give a whole class on linking. I've always shied away from it because it's one of those things that if you manipulate improperly, you can hurt yourself. But as a website owner, you need to know about it so that you can make decisions, not to manipulate it, but that you can make good decisions, i.e., should I join a chamber of commerce? The answer is 100% yes. I don't care if you ever go to a networking event. Should I list something in the Chronicle? If you can get a backlink from it, please, by all means, go list yourself in the Chronicle. There's multiple different ways to approach this. All right, so that's the next one. The next thing, this kind of goes in with this, so I'll address this at the same time. One of the ways there is, and I've taught whole classes on this too. You hear about white hat SEO, you hear about black hat SEO, and I'm going to say all SEO, there's black hat and there's gray hat. Now, I don't know that I think that there's necessarily a white hat, because when you start down the road to talk about how to optimize your website to meet the standards of a search engine algorithm, it immediately implies that you are trying to understand and maximize the system. So white hat / gray hat is, I know things, I do them in a way that makes me be more desirable. Okay. Versus somebody that knows nothing and they don't do anything to maximize something. So as I look at black hat SEO, these are a lot of tactics that go out past what Google guidelines say. But I'm also going to say this. I could give you the Google guidelines and you all could go follow it to a T. And I 100% guarantee that you will not be able to rank your website. Because the guidelines themselves do not explain, emphasize, or let you understand what elements are more important than others, because it's not necessarily weighted. It's like all things are equal. So if you do X, Y, and Z, you're following Google's guidelines. I do X, Y, and Z, understanding that I'm going to put more emphasis on a piece and less emphasis on another piece. Okay. So the black hat is people that they're just going and buying links and throwing links on a website. There's things out there that are called private blog networks, and they make a network of blogs and then link them out to their website. So they may make a network of car blogs, and then they start linking them to websites about cars. They may make, and there's a whole industry there of black hat SEO and of private blog networks and things that are done to feed into the Google algorithm to help manipulate it. There's link schemes, meaning that I link to Chandra, Chandra links to Christina. All right. So the link never comes back to me, but they're like three. So that I'm not linking back to Chandra. Christina may link to me. She's getting power from me because Chandra's linking to her. So that's a link scheme. You don't ever want to play. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with links. And you don't want to be doing that kind of stuff. That's not really the right way to approach things. So I could say that black hat is bad, but there's some things that we all process things. We just do it a little bit less. When I tell you to write a title tag, I am telling I'm telling you to write it in a certain way. Am I going against Google guidelines, or do I understand that the order that I put words in are more important? So they say write a title tag. I say I'm going to write my title tag that's going to say SEO Houston, web design Houston. I'm going to write it in a way that's more conducive to me ranking, and I'm not just going to put vertical web. We make the web work, because that would be a title tag. Okay, I'm going to maximize that title tag. So there's some gray hat, I would almost want to make the argument that all SEO is gray hat, because you are trying to understand how to take Google's algorithm and feed it in a way to maximize the result, which means that you're kind of jimmying the locks on the doors a little bit. Okay. So, but black hat is really bad. The other where you see it is they'll take a page and they spam pages, they spin pages. I know some people that they'll take one page of content, spin it into 10 more pages, send it out into the world. They're spamming, and that's a bad way to do things as well. So I just want you to understand there's a right way, there's a midway, and then there's a wrong way. And black hat is really, I hate to say it's wrong, because it works for a while. That Easy Rack site kind of qualifies as black hat, because it took a piece of the internet, it exploited that part of the algorithm, and then one day Google said, we're not going to let you do that anymore. And it went from getting 1 million page views a month down to getting 10,000 page views a month. So Google penalized it and took it from 1 million to 10,000. So that's a humongous drop, but it's because they went out too far, and Google eventually pulled back on what they'd let you do, and they got caught up in it. So understand that part of it. Next thing I want to talk about is this, okay? and I think there's a lot of misconceptions with this. And I'm not so sure that I believe Google. In fact, frankly, sometimes Google says things and I know for sure that they're really not going to tell me the truth on something. So what this is, we're going to talk about is the bounce rate. And what that is somebody comes to your website off of Google, they look at your website, and how long does it take them to go back and bounce back to Google? Okay. A spin on that also would be a dwell rate. How long do they stay on your page? So I want to talk to you about a few things in a few different ways. Okay. So I told you I have a Squarespace page on my website that explains how to set your domain up at Squarespace. And we get inordinate amounts of traffic to that daily because there's people that don't know how to do this. I had put it up to help some of my domain registration customers, and it's probably one of the most popular pages on the website. So people come to that page and they bounce back to Google or they go someplace else. And that would be what you would say traditionally, that would be bad, because they would go to that page and then they exit that page and go back to Google. But what else they do is they stay on that page for a couple minutes because they have to copy the information off that page. So I'm holding them on that page with the information that's on that page. Google says none of this matters. But I guarantee you that if I have a page that somebody hits and immediately goes back to Google, Google's going to say, you know what, we're not providing the best answer to our end user. So I want to make sure everybody understands that whether they say it ranks or not, a bad bounce rate, and when I'm defining a bad bounce rate, I'm going to say 60 or probably 70, 80%. If you have all these people bouncing back to Google that it's getting picked up, there's something ineffective about that page. You're not meeting the grade of what Google would want to see. So you should care about that. I, like in the example of my Squarespace page, I don't care about it because at the end of the day, it really is a one-use page. People stay there long enough. So even though they're bouncing off, they're staying long enough that I'm getting the dwell credit rather than the bounce credit. So understand there's a couple different factors in that. And again, I repeat, Google doesn't count that. I don't believe them. Oh, wait, did I say the second piece of that out loud? Google doesn't count that. Anyway, so I want you to understand, you need to have a good bounce rate because you need to deliver a good product. You want people to stay on your website. You don't want them bouncing back to Google. All right. One of the things that Google has, you'll hear us talk about Googlebot or a crawler, or back in the day, you know, the spider, it used to be the web, where Google got the web, or Google, where the internet got the nickname of web because it was a spider web of, and if you've ever seen a spider will walk along the web and it would come to point after point after point, and they were all interconnected some way. Which kind of sounds like, why is this lady explaining to me what the internet, how it all started? But the reason why is because these bots or crawlers are out there walking the internet. And you need to make sure that you're aware that they're out there, because if you have a page that has that links to it one way and the bot gets to that page and it can't get off that page, you're kind of penalized. That shouldn't happen too much anymore with these database driven websites and navigation. But it used to be that you literally could trap the Googlebot or the crawlers on your website if you didn't have good linking on and off a page, that they got to a page and then they had no place else to go, because they don't normally go back to where they came from. They're always moving forward. The other thing is that once you understand that there is a bot or these Google bots, you want them to deep crawl your site and you want to get them to get as many pages as they can per se. If you look at this web development page and you come all the way down to the bottom, I am starting to build in all the related topics that go to this web development page. And the reason why is I am letting Google have a deeper crawl on this website, because every one of these pages that they hit, it has another one of these menus on the bottom of it. Okay. And so Google, as they walk through it, it allows them to crawl deeper and deeper and deeper into the website based on this navigational menu on the bottom. I think everybody should have that. Not everything has to go on your navigation bar. So I guess I'll throw navigation bar on my list of terms. Navigation bar is the thing at the top that allows people to utilize the website and to point you in directions. But if you'll notice, that got really big for some reason. I don't really know what I did. Hold on, let me back this all up so we can actually see what's going on. I don't know what I did. I broke my whole browser. Hold on. Let me just do this way. All right. So if you look at this way, yeah, I did something to it. I don't know what I did. But if you look, this is your navigation bar. You'll notice that the only thing that's here is web development. Here's the web development page. Here's the links at the bottom. Yeah, now see, everything's really small. So I don't know what the heck this thing is doing. So understand that not everything goes on the navigation bar, and that I need to have like a traffic cop at the bottom that says these are the other pages we have on the subject matter. That allows Google to deep crawl the website. So between the items at the bottom, the anchor text throughout the pages, and the navigation, Google can crawl. You want them to do a deep crawl on your website. You want them to have thousands of pages. You also should be feeding them through a sitemap, so that should be working that way as well. So you want that also. But the biggest piece that you need to know about is that I need to check something here. Hang on a minute. Okay, I heard my front door. I didn't know, so it was like somebody was leaving, not coming in. All right. So anyway, so this is, you need to know about how your navigation works and how these bots go. They literally will walk down this page and follow every link that they come to. So they enter on this page, they're going to hit this design page, they're going to hit this design development page, they're going to hit this SEO page, they're going to hit all these links on the bottom and go throughout the website. You want to keep them crawling downward and downward and downward so that maximize the amount of exposure any given page gets. So just be mindful of that. That's an important concept. The other thing on this topic, you'll notice every page you put together should have a breadcrumb trail, and that's this little Doomaflachi up here. And what that is it's the home page, it's the next page over, and it's the page that I'm on. And Google can follow the spider, the bot, Googlebot, whatever you want to call it, can follow these points across, and that gives them deeper. So what I will tell you is if you're using something like WordPress, this is auto-generated, so it's not like this big tragedy that you have to go remember all this. But understand that this also is being built coming off of where you put pages and how you nest them together. So if I have a web design section, all the web design pages nest under this web design page. And you can see that here, that the URL is clearly on its own. I have here, I have this, and then it comes down and it'll start to come down into other pages. So I know I'm kind of going fast. It's because I have a lot of things to cover here. So that's good. I'll put the replay up and we'll have it. So we got fonts, anchor text. And I'm trying to take notes so I can just write this all out when I'm all done. All right. The next one I have. The next thing that you need to be worried about is 404 pages. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, I was watching Facebook I was scrolling through Facebook last night, and somebody said they were assigned the room 404, but they couldn't find it. And nobody understood the joke. They said, didn't you mean 302? Didn't you mean this? Didn't you mean that? And they were like, they didn't understand the joke. 404 is the universal error code for a page that's not found on the internet. Now you may see it. You may see it as just a page not found when you go to a website, but what it does on the backside is it generates a 404 code. So you want to look through your log files and see what pages are generating 404s. Something like Rank Math has a 404. If you're using WordPress, it has a finder on it that says, hey, this page was not found. Where do you want it to redirect to? All right. So you should never have a 404 on your website. That's just really kind of pretty rudimentary. You should not have one. And anything that changes it, anything that changes should have a 301 redirect issued with it. So just understand that's a secondary set of code that has to be entered. If you're using Rank Math, they have a redirect manager. You can just add it. It will add the code in for you. You don't have to be a techie person to do it. Otherwise, I will put the code to rewrite a URL redirect in your Apache config file. What I'm going to say is if you're using WP Engine, they're taking away the ability to use an htaccess file. And I'm going to tell you, I think that's going to wreak a lot of havoc on the SEO world. And I don't even know why they're doing it, to be honest with you. But I was talking to my system admin, and he understands what they were doing and what they asked to be doing. But he was like, I don't know. His answer to me was there really is no point to stopping people. But let me put the way this is. Just know if you're using WP Engine, you're going to be in a world of trouble if you have a lot of these things. So redirect 301, page name. All right. And then it's going to go HTTPS, your domain, your web address.com/page name. Okay, so that's how you would write a 301 redirect in your htaccess file. If you're not using Rank Math, if you're not using something that has it built in, you can do this through your cPanel and the file manager. The htaccess file is hidden. You need to unhide the file, and you can make the edits directly into the page. The other thing that you want to do is put the newest redirects at the top, not at the bottom, because they read them in order. Okay. So if it redirects before it comes to your new one, it's gonna mix it all up. So make sure you put your newest ones at the top, because once it redirects, it stops reading the rest of the file. Okay. So that's just a little tidbit, on redirects. On broken links, all broken links should be redirected, period, end of story. Okay. 404 should not be a thing. And if you go somewhere and they ask you 404, you can now understand the not found joke. So you now have learned something else. So if, it was funny, all these people had no idea what people were talking about. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about caching on a website and what that really means and what that looks like to your business. All web pages. Okay, so let's come back to web browsers were built back in the day. So there is, back in the world, we had these dial-up modems. They were 14.4 for all you that were like in diapers when this was going on, that are listening to this. What the browser would do is when it downloaded the file, the next time it saw the file, it would pull it off a local copy on your computer, rather than going and downloading it. So the first time you went to a page, it was inordinately slow. After that, if it had a copy of the page, a copy of the files, it would deliver the file off your local computer rather than trying to re-download it off the internet. That technology is still with us today. Sometimes they say, God, why? But it's still with us today. You can set how long those pages are cached. But you want to have a cache of pages because it helps the page load experience for your end user. Because Google has its core vitals, and speed is becoming more and more problematic, or more and more necessary. Maybe that's a better way to say it. You need to make sure that you have a cache on your website. You need to make sure that it's putting it together right. Again, there's plugins to handle this. So just the other thing is that you could look at something like a content delivery network that helps the content come from a location that is closer to the end user. So if I'm in Texas, the pages are delivered to me off a content network in Texas, rather than coming to me from Atlanta or Richmond or wherever the server is housed. So there's multiple different ways and multiple different deliveries that can be done on a website to help speed this up. But this caching, if you ever call tech support, they'll tell you clear your cache. That's kind of what they're telling you because you're getting an old copy of a page versus the new copy of the page. There's caching on the server side. There's caching on the browser side. So there's this cache is like a big mixed up convoluted mess, if you ask me, because I say sometimes I cleared my cache. It wasn't cleared on the server side. It was cleared on on my browser side, or vice versa. I clear it on the server, and next thing I know, it's still not working in my computer, and I have to shut my browser down and restart it, and it'll dump it. So every single computer in the whole world does this. Some of the web browsers do it better than others. Safari used to do it great. It's not so great anymore. Chrome has a memory like an elephant. It never seems to lose whatever I had. I got to do tricks and go in and set it to make settings go away to do that. So, but you should understand the cache and know what's going on. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about is domain names. Okay. Because I need everybody to understand this one too. You'll see them referred to as TLD, which is top level domain. You may also see them as CCTLD, and that's because they have a country code in front of them. So most TLDs that you know of are .com, which was commercial initially, .net, which was set up for networks, and .org, which was set up for nonprofits. Now it's like the Wild West and you see anything. What I will tell you is that Google more prefers the com and the net. They'll tell you no, but they do. There's US, there's CC. A lot of them have more expensive attributes to them. When you start getting involved in a country code level, so you might see it as domain.com.uk or domain.de, which is Germany. Where this comes into play for a United States business is if I want to be multinational and I want to rank my product in Germany, if given the choice between company.de and company.com, Google's going to pick the company version first and the .com second, or the country code first and then the .com second. So when I'm in Germany, I'm more apt to get a .de page in Germany than I would to be able to get a .com page in Germany. If there is no .com, if there is no .de page, then it will come to the .com page. But if you're looking to do international SEO, you really need to consider using the right country codes and the right CCTLD, which is country code top level domains. All right. There's hundreds of domain choices now, and they continue to add them. So there's that. Jumping around a little bit, I'm going to go to a localized SEO, and we're going to talk about the word citation. The word citation are things, places that your website's or your brand is mentioned on the internet. It needs to have the right name, address, and phone number. Sometimes they're in social networks, sometimes they're in directories. Google themselves does Google My Business, which is Google Business Profiles now. So Google My Business is the old name. Google Business Profiles is the new name. Your name, address, and phone number has to be consistent across the internet. If it's not, I have ways to fix it. So that there's a little bit of backstory to that too. There was way back 100 years ago, there was a company called AT&T, which was Bell. Okay. And the monopoly people got in hold of Bell and they broke them up into 12 baby bells. And the 12 baby bells were known as Southwestern Bell. Verizon was one, which originally they were GT MobileNet. Qualcomm was one. Quest was one. To come up with all of them right this minute, I don't know that I could. But what they had was a phone book which again, for everybody under the age of 35, was a big thing that they would throw in your driveway that you would come out your front door in the morning and trip over because there was like the Encyclopedia Britannica in your driveway of people. Those phone books had databases hooked up to them. And the old Bell numbers, okay, so whether you're Southwestern Bell or Qualcomm, okay, the old Bell numbers were in this database. So if you had a landline phone number that came to you and you had that address and that phone number are attached in that database. And those databases are not necessarily upgraded anymore. So like my company phone number, one of them is super, 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 super old. It literally has my home address from when I opened the company back in 1997. I haven't owned the house since 2004. But if you look, that's what's showing my company address. So I had to go in and make a change that told those data aggregation from the baby bells that that address was no longer valid. All right, that's important. So there's some tests that you can run. I have a tester on our website. If anybody needs that, I'll get you a link to it. But I have a tester that you can test whether your name, address, and phone number is correct. And if it's not and not consistent across all databases, there's ways to fix that. I'll also tell you is that Yahoo directory, and I'm saying that right, basically doesn't exist anymore for update. And this is the only way to come in and update it. So again, if you have an older company, chances are you're in that Yahoo local directory. That's going to need to get fixed too, because the aggregator for that doesn't get published anymore either. So it's all these places, like the internet never forgets, but yet some of these databases can't actually be updated anymore because they're not, but they're still out there spewing wrong information. So every business needs to know what was there, what your address was, what was showing. Like, so my main company is 24 years old, and I've got 3 addresses. I've had the same phone number since the day I opened, so that's not a problem. But the address is 3 addresses deep. We just received notification for the location in Pennsylvania that they're just going to get rid of our address up there, and we're going to have to go get a new address. So that's a reason to change. So that's going to be a 4th old address rumbling around out there in this world that we need to fix for things. So I'm going to say to you that everybody needs to know what your citations are. Everybody's going to need to know whether their name, address, and their phone number match. They're going to need to make sure your information matches in all your social directories and all those kind of things. And if they do, then you're in good shape, and off you go. Okay. So, but that's an important thing to know about. How am I doing on topics? I mean, I'm covering everything. I hope your heads are probably like going to be spinning by the time this is over with, I'm assuming, right? So the next thing I'm going to throw out there at you is we're going to go back to Black Hat for a minute. Okay. And I'm going to kind of come back to AMP pages for a minute, because I can see this being exploited in this way accidentally and you having a problem. So back in the day, sometimes, you know, the internet, I've been doing this for so long that my ability to understand where these things come from is. So back in the day, a spider would come to your website, it would identify itself, and you could serve a page constructed specifically for that spider. So when the end user would come to the page, they would get one thing. And when the spider came to the page, they would get something completely different that was written specifically for them. Google has made that, it's called cloaking. And Google has made that completely illegal, to the point where if you get caught doing it, you're banned. And I have seen some sites get banned for, I got one that I know has been banned for the better part of 20 years. So you don't ever want to be cloaking pages. You don't want to make pages that are specifically that the end user gets one page and the spider gets another page, which is why I say AMP is a tempting way to do that. And which is why I actually, when we talked about AMP, I encouraged you to keep them the same, because even though that would not be the intent, I could see that falling into a cloaking bucket by accident. And then, it's somebody doing something. So try to keep things in sync so it doesn't look like we're trying to serve one thing to one thing and one thing to another thing. Everybody should get the same content, whether it be a spider, whether it be Googlebot, whether it be the end user. Everybody should get the same content. So I think that's a big deal for you guys to know about, because it's something that you wouldn't do, but it's also a mistake I can see being made accidentally. All right, next thing is you hear everybody say the word CMS, and that's just your content system. I talk about CMS, I mean WordPress. I don't usually, you could talk about Magento, you could talk about Shopify, you could talk about Wix and Squarespace, and technically those are all content management systems as well. Basically what it is it lets you, it's a database of your web pages that when you publish it, it creates and maintains the links within it for you, so you don't have to go in and update and make changes. So back in the day when I would put a page up in front page, I literally, if I had 20 pages, I add a page, I might have to touch 20 pages to be able to make that web page work right. Okay, so you want to have some kind of content system. I have a lady that I met through U of H, and she keeps telling me about Dreamweaver, and she built her website in Dreamweaver, and she was trained in Dreamweaver, and to me, it's a little bit hard. There's a place for Dreamweaver. It's more for coders or to flesh something out. But in order to manage the volume of content that you have to manage, you have to have a system to do that. And I'm going to go one beyond that. The days of having a 3-page brochure website for any reason are in the rear view mirror. You cannot have a 3-page website anymore. You need to be targeting at least 100 pages, which sounds like a lot. Yeah, I know, I saw big eyes on that one. It sounds like a lot. Don't get too off on that, because at the end of the day, the blogging platform that lives within WordPress helps generate that page count for you. Now, granted, if I had to have 100 good, solid SEO optimized pages, that's what I would want. But in the meantime, I could put up 20 blog posts and have 100 pages, because there's 5 pages attached to every blog post I put up, because of the categories page, because of the archive page, because of the months page. It creates 4 different versions. That page appears and there's 4 different pages just simply because that page was posted to it. So your count grows up substantially just simply because you have added a blog post. So it's not as horrific as it sounds, but, and I'm going to say this, and I hope everybody kind of understands how I'm saying it. Google's not in business to rank your website. They're in business to give the best possible content to their end user, which means that if we're only going to put up a 20-page website, we're looking at a low watermark. We're not doing things in a way that also instill confidence in our end user. If I went to an SEO website for somebody that I wanted to hire to do SEO, and they were a 5-page website, I'd be running out the door screaming. In fact, I hit this the other day, and I'm kind of a little bit surprised at it. And I think this is probably a price piece of this too. But I had a customer that came and said, oh, well, we're going to change companies. And the company they changed to was some little girl that has a 1-page Wix website. That 1-page Wix website, if she probably met them at a chamber of commerce, that doesn't qualify you to run a campaign against Walgreens or CVS. And you can't have a 1-page. So if you're a web company and you go to a web company and it's a 1-page website, that needs to be a red flag. If I go to my accountant and it's a one-page website, that should be a red flag, because there's so much going on in accounting law, and there's so much going on. In fact, I just got an email from one of my business partner that was saying, hey, we were told this and the laws changed, and I did a lot of research, and then I went back and I confirmed, and yep, sure enough, it's because these accountants are not keeping up with the information on their websites. You need to show that you know what the heck you're doing. And I think appearance counts. I think girth counts. So as much as I say, I say 100 pages and everybody gets this horrified look on their face, when I actually start to explain it, it's a way for you to demonstrate that you're a quality company to do business with. On this subject, and I'm going to talk about this more probably next month, but try to use real photos and not use stock photos. And what I mean when I say that is that the days of stock photos are pretty much in the rearview mirror. You want to take your own pictures, and if you look at the ones, even the ones that I have here, if you come back to our homepage, these are real pictures. This is the data center. It's not a data center, it's our PC Lightwaves data center that I took when I was down there. So that's one picture. That's a real customer's website. This is a function that I was at. This is not a stock show. This is a Houston Northwest Chamber Day picture that we took. We're putting real pictures. If you come to our class page, now I'm going to tell you the lawyer made me do this, which I didn't agree with. All right, so I'm going to say this. You see me standing here with my class. This is one of the classes I taught. This was at Lone Star College. And what they said is we didn't really have the permission to use all these people, so they had me blur the picture. But if you really start and look and you know what I look like, you'll know that's me standing there in the corner of that picture. I'm using real pictures because what I'm saying, I will put my face, my name, my company name behind anything I say. And everybody should have that approach with their business. Be real, put your people up there, put yourself out there, explain it what you're out. Like here, I've got my picture here and what my qualifications are and all the places we work from. So this is a real company. I keep trying to make my staff put their pictures out. They don't want to do it. So I'm not going to argue with them. I'll just continue to be the face of this myself. I don't have a problem with that. But at the end of the day, I mean, make the website be real in what you do so that people kind of know that you're a real person. The other thing that I did, and I'm kind of saying this so everybody, with a content system, it makes this easy. Okay, so just so you know, the other thing that I did, and everybody should kind of consider this too, what we did on this is we decided that when I really put rubber to the metal, what sets us apart is how we interact with our customers. And the message that, and I I kind of hoped everybody walked away with, but we actually went out to some of our really long-term customers and we asked them for a headshot. We asked them for a content, and we actually put real people on our website because we kept it real. We didn't make fake people. You can go call any of these people if you want. Okay. So we did it in the hosting area. I did it in the web design area. I actually helped these folks learn how to do web design back in the day. And then I actually, from the SEO side, I took some of the testimonials we had. But everybody I have is a real person. And the reason I'm kind of saying this to you is because I think the days of having a stock glitzy website are gone. It needs to be neat. It needs to be, it can't look terrible or looks like somebody did it with crayons. Don't misunderstand me, okay? But at the same time, there's an authenticity, or at least I'm hoping there's an authenticity in everything that we did, that you could see that these were not stock photos, that they're real people, and that we felt like our customers were the best people to speak for us. Even this picture here, this is one, I actually took that picture, but I'm encouraging everybody to take pictures, to do things that could be a stock photo. I'll admit that one. Okay. But I'm encouraging everybody to kind of do their own thing here. and make it personal and personalized. A content management system allows you to do that. So putting up a 3-page website that says, hey, this is what we do. I groom dogs. And then we don't have little pictures of the dogs. We just have I groom dogs, and we have this owner throwing the ball at the park, or it doesn't personalize it and make you look like a real person. And people do business with who they like. So don't forget that there is that is coming, even though we may have gotten away from it, because I think we did for a while. That's really kind of coming back in vogue. And the only way for you to start to convey that and to put the content out and to personalize your content is to have a reasonable CMS system that allows you to add pages, put pages up, connect them correctly, and create them so that you can meet the needs that the bar that you need to do to be able to put things together right. So that's that. And so you see, even here I have our classes. I've got, so all the things that I did is I tried to personalize this whole subject so that you could tell you're not signing up with somebody like GoDaddy, that actually you're just a number 2 and you're passing through. All right, so that's the content situation, or the content management situation. The next thing I want to talk about is content comment spam. And this is something that I see done. There's bots that walk the world that all they do is they try to post a comment on a website. And for a while, it was a good thing to have that comment because it showed that there was some kind of engagement with the page. But then those bots started posting backlinks to other people's websites, and it started to become a spam tactic on the part of people trying to build links back to their website from other websites. If your comments are turned on your blog or on your website, you need to make sure that you have them sandboxed and that you review them, and that they are not posting random things on your website without somebody reviewing them first, because you actually can get penalized for that now. And that's a big situation. Okay. So I would make sure that I understood whether my comments were turned on and off, whether my hosting company or myself needed to provide a spam filter. Like on our hosting plans, we give out Ask Cement on our WordPress accounts to keep the comment spam down. I'm going to do a class on WordPress plugins that everybody needs to have. So that will be on the list, and I'll kind of talk through that when we get there. So our class at the end of the month is going to be on WordPress plugins. So the moral of the story is don't let people post stuff. And I'll go to a website and I can tell that they're not moderated. Nobody's looking at them. And it's got, I found one guy is an advertising agency. He put some up and he started getting links to like porn sites. And I was like, I had to call him and I said to him, you may not want my opinion. I don't know if you do or you don't, but you really need to go turn that down. He thanked me profusely because he wasn't a customer, but he was an acquaintance that I knew through the chamber. He thanked me profusely because he didn't know that he was getting porno sites posted on his comments on the blog posts he was putting up. So that's that story. So that's that. All right. So the next thing is, let me see where I want to go next, because what time is it? 12:20. All right. So next thing I want to do is I want to talk about conversions. The conversions are, hold on one second. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is conversions. One more, I got a text message. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Sorry about this. Okay. The next one I want to talk about is conversion. Okay. And what we're going to talk about in conversion is what are the hopes and the goals for my web page? And then how do I make money off that page? Does it convert the way I want it to convert? Okay. So I may have a web page that's for web design, and what is the conversion goals for this page? So when I put ever up a page, I always hope that I know what my conversion goals are for this web design. What I want somebody to do is to contact us. So that is my goal for this page. If I get somebody comes to this page and contacts us, that would be fantastic. Okay. If they come to the bottom of the page, or if they come to the middle of the page and they fill this section out here, those are my conversion goals. And what that is that's the action that I desire on this page. Okay. And you should have those type things in mind for every page that you put up and that you can do. And if you don't have that in mind, then we need to start calibrating our thinking about that. And what does that really look like? And what does that mean to you? Okay. So I have to look at, what do I want it to do? What do I hope it to do? One thing that I'll tell you is that scrolling banners tend to push people away. We did this here at the top. Remember, I told you above the fold. We did this here above the fold because our goal was to make sure that somebody came to our homepage, they could figure out what part of our company they wanted to go to. If you're selling something, it's important to know that you shouldn't put 70 choices on a page. And the greatest company in the whole world about it is Amazon. So I always tell everybody, when in doubt on conversion, decide what you need. They do thousands of tests a minute to make sure that they convert, and they move buttons around, they move layouts around. They're constantly testing what they want you to do and how they want you to interact. So when you come to an Amazon page, you'll see, how they have this laid out. They're coming against what whether I want to buy a game again, whether I want to look at what I was looking at. And then they start making suggestions. They have Mother's Day suggestions. So let's go into these keep on shopping sections. Okay. They have their breadcrumb trail. They let me know. You notice that they have these two orange buttons here. And you may say to yourself, well, that's an ugly orange color. They went with orange because they know that's one of the biggest conversion colors out there, along with blue. Okay. So when they put these buttons in orange, they know that they're more apt to get a conversion. And if you notice, the buy now is orange and the add to carts only is a little less orange. It's a little more yellow. Okay. Because they want people to buy now and not just add it to a cart that they can go in and do it on. If you notice, they don't slam in 8 sections of pictures. They give you the one nice picture. If you wanted to look at them, you can roll over and look at them individually and look at it, what you should be kind of looking at and how you go. They even have a video, very helpful. They kind of keep your information up here easy, not overbearing, not way too much. If they want to give you too much, you can start to come down to the bottom. And you see, before they start to tell you about this product, they also, if you've scrolled and moved your mouse, what they know is that you're probably not happy with this product the way it's constituted up here. All right. So you looked through this, you looked at how it did. It's not meeting your needs. It didn't meet my needs. I was looking for something specific, and this was not meeting my needs. So I kind of you start to scroll down, and rather than giving you the discussion about this product, they jump to related products because they know that your action is predicated on the fact that you weren't happy. Because if you were happy, you would have hit the buy now and moved on. If we kind of agree with that, okay? So understand what they're doing. And when in doubt, and when you don't know whether what you should do on a page, go to Amazon and find out, because the answer, I kid around with people all the time, but the answer sits at Amazon. The fact that they break these out, that you don't actually have to go somewhere, that you can pick it right here. I can decide I want purple. I want to see what this purple looks like. I'm attracted to purple. I like the color purple. You know what it's not showing me and why I won't buy this? Because it doesn't show me what the page actually looks like. And I'm interested in what the page is. So this one is a no-go for me. All right, but they're giving me all this information, but they're doing it in a way because what they want me to do is make that buying decision. Everything here is to help me make a buying decision. And they know that by the time you get to the bottom of the page, you're going to be over here wondering what, where, and what, and why, and how. And then they start even making suggestions out of the last stuff that you looked at. So you can see, where I've got everything from coolers to generators to backpacks to, it looks like I'm going on a trip, but I'm really not. I was just looking for a few things. In fact, this now has caught my eye. I don't need to look and see what this looks like because I love my backpacks and I would love to have one on wheels. So now they've made this next suggestion for me and off we go. Okay. So with all of that said, I'm gonna say that conversion is important. We want to look at how people do that, what people do. You also want to know what your conversion rate is. I'm going to tell you, and people can argue this with me, but I think it's all in how you figure it out. I think 1 to 2% of all your visits will convert into a sale. Okay. Do I think you can do things to help stuff convert into a sale more? Absolutely. Would I say that it's not unreasonable to say you could have a 10 or a 20% conversion rate? Absolutely. That's usually more in an AdWords world, which is paid ads on Google, than it is on an organic side, because organic always starts informational. So if I have a 10% conversion rate on an organic site, I'm much happier. So just to understand that, but just understand, what the conversion rate is. What are you hoping to gain from somebody? Do you want them to complete a purchase? Do you want to add something to a shopping cart? Do you want them to request a form? Do you want them to give them your email address? What do you want somebody to do, and what is your purpose? And that will help you govern how you better put out the page. Okay. I will tell you that on my website, when I do the class website, okay, what I have done, and this has been intentional on my part, and I've actually been thinking about maybe moving this around. So you may see me change that here in the not too distant future. But when you come to to one of our episodes, I put the podcast on top because ultimately I want people to subscribe to the podcast and engage with the podcast. That's really my goal for this page. The next thing I do is I write the article, and I want somebody to scroll down this article, read the article, learn about the article, and understand that it goes with the podcast. Last but not least, at the very bottom of the page, if you come down all this way, the video recap of this class, the Zoom content of this class, is sitting on this page. And I put it all the way on the bottom for a couple reasons. One is if somebody took the time to read all the way through, great, they have the nugget. I don't want to deviate them off into YouTube if I didn't want them to initially. The other thing is I didn't want everybody to get too comfortable that they could come grab the blog and just start watching videos, because at the end of the day, this class works a lot better with the more people we have in it, because it allows, our one with score has anywhere from 80 to 300 in it, depending on what time of the year. There's a lot more questions that are asked in a 30 to 300 people class than there is in a smaller class. So I never wanted to get to where this class became an on-demand. I think that's starting to go what's going on, because I can see the numbers on the podcast going up. So I think what's happening is this becoming more and more of an on-demand situation. That's okay. I was always concerned about that anyway. But at the end of the day, I put that on because my goal wasn't to have them watch the video. My goal is to get them involved in the podcast and to read the standalone page. So I put thought into what do I hope to achieve when I do something, and you guys need to do that too. You don't just put up a random page without any idea of what you want it to be. The next set of things that we're going to talk about is core vitals. That's kind of gets thrown around quite a bit. What it is a set of speed metrics that Google has put together for your website that it has to meet this. It's how big is the website? How fast does it load? How long does your server take to respond? And how stable is the website visually? Does it shift? Does it move? What happens with it? So understand that you all need to, core vitals is a ranking factor. You need to make sure that you pass core vitals at all costs on your website. We've had whole classes on core vitals. I think I'm going to end up doing one again on that. It's really it's half how your website's built. I'm going to be talking about platform at the end of the month for Houston Community College. And I'm going to talk a lot about platform, speed, ability to make changes. And some of this is with this core vitals in mind, because if you can't pass core vitals, you're putting yourself already in a deficit position. So you don't want to put yourself in a deficit position on something if you don't want to. The next thing I want to tell you, and I don't really ever want you to screw with this, but I'm going to let you know it's out there. And this, sometimes your hosting company forces this to happen, but you should have a hosting company where you're not throttled. But let me start with the crawl budget is how many pages that you can crawl and how many pages can Google suck out of the website at one time. Now, I have websites that are 10, 20, 30,000 pages. I have some that are over 100,000 pages. I want Google to come in and take as many pages as they want, so we don't restrict them. And in fact, on the firewalls, we actually have them allowed to come in. So you can set that budget in Search Console. I can also stop it happening on the web server side with a firewall, that if I have too much of something come through that's from the same IP that looks like I'm being attacked, because trust me, when Google comes to try to take a 10,000 page website, you look like you're being attacked. All right. So we've had to be willing to make adjustments to allow Google to take as much as they want. Conversely, you can set it. So if you're the IT department, you may want to set and restrict that. I'm going to tell you, you want to have an unlimited crawl budget, and you want to make sure your web hosting company will let you have an unlimited crawl budget. If Google wants to come and grab something out of my website, by God, you're going to get it as many times as you want it, how often you want it. And I'm not stopping you, because that action of crawling your website is how your web pages get listed, how they get updated, and how Google views your website. So I would never impede them from coming to my website, not 1 second, not 1 minute, not 1 hour of any day. The other thing is that sometimes they'll hit an error. Like if you do Google Search Console, you'll see that they have crawl errors. That means that the Googlebot hit a page, it couldn't crawl it, and it produces a crawl error. You need to make sure that you get those all addressed. You make sure your website doesn't have crawl errors. You make sure that that all works well. And that is, that works. The other thing is, as I'm saying that, part of that too is you want to make sure that all the links work underneath, because remember I told you you want that deep crawl. So you want to make sure that Google can do that deep crawl, that you instruct them where you want it to go, and that that information comes back out. So make sure that you've got that piece going on as well. One question I get a lot of is, what is direct traffic? And Google sees direct traffic that doesn't come from them. All right. So one way to get direct traffic is, you know, a bookmark. But like this morning, I sent out that email and all of you all came through the email to come to the website. I know on the days that I send out the email, my page visits go up to 500 or 600 because everybody's coming to get the schedule for the month. Those are direct because they don't pass through Google. They don't pass through social media. They're not qualified. They're not quantified. So I just went to Nike and I didn't go through Google to get to Nike. I typed Nike directly in. That's a direct visit because the brand is strong enough that people went directly to the brand and bypassed going through a search engine. Okay. I just did it with Amazon too. You all watch me go to Amazon.com. I went to Amazon. I didn't need Google to show me where Amazon was. I typed it directly into the browser and it pulled the web page up. So just understand that that's out there. Ideally, if you have a brand, you should have a substantial amount of non-organic traffic. So like we have a brand, in fact, I have a bigger brand than what I thought I was going to have, but we have a brand, you know, 30% of our traffic is direct traffic coming in. And of that 30%, and 10 or 15% of all traffic is for this class. So even though we have all this hosting and all this tech support and all this other stuff going on under all of this, 10% of our traffic is dedicated to this class alone. That people are coming, they come to get the topics, they come to get the replays, they come to get the schedule, they come to do something. And that there are direct type ins to come to that. And I see it in my traffic, I see it in my stats. My chat program kind of monitors that as well, because the chat program lets me know who's on the site, where they're going and what they're doing. So that's always, that to me, that's always a good thing when I know all of that. So that's another set of things. There are a few other things when we talked about domain that I'm going to throw out there. And some people are going to say, nope, you don't know what you're talking about. And other people are going to say, boy, I wish you didn't say that. And more people are going to, less people, I should say more people, less people are going to say, yep, that's right. There is a definite amount of credit for older websites and older domain names. And what we've noticed is that the domains that have significant domain age without disruption have an easier time of getting ranked on anything. So when I decided I was going to move away from my old brand and start using the vertical web, well, I didn't start with the idea of vertical web. I started looking around to see, hey, what were some good names and what was out there and available. I think vertical web was originally registered in 1997. I'm going to check it actually, see if it'll pop up. Yeah, see, this domain is 23 years old. So it was originally registered back in 2000, February of 2000. So there's a, and I know they'll tell you no, and I know people say no, but I always say that anything, and I'm using a timeline when I say this, but it seems to me that anything that is 2000 or less has one set of rules. Anything that's 2004, 2000 to 2004 have a different set of rules. 2005 or 6, probably more like 2006, all the way to 2012 seem to have a different set of rules. And it seems like everything that's been registered past 2012 have yet another set of rules. I took this vertical web domain, I put it up, and I had terms ranking on it in a matter of days with no links pointing to it. So I can't help but say that the old domains help. A lot of people say no. And I'm gonna say, you know, what is that saying? We can agree to disagree. And it doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about. I have enough evidence of taking a domain and standing up an old one to say that I think we get a much more favorable treatment with the old ones, even if they have no backlinks to them, because that would be the argument. They'd say, well, they were backlinked or they had use. My website was never used prior to me taking it and turning it live in the beginning of 2022. I have a couple more that we're going to be doing in the next few weeks. I'll be anxious to see how well they go as well. So I've got one person that's, you know, some of these people are willing to spend five digits of a number on a domain name. Because it's that important and that imperative that you have a good domain. So if you don't have a domain name, consider aftermarket, but don't buy one without some guidance from somebody that knows what they're doing. If you do have an old domain name, be very happy that you have it, because there's a lot of value in them. There's very few that are, and I shouldn't say very few, there's a lot of them that were let go by companies that went out of business. I want to see what the age on this one is. I think this one's about the same. Yeah, see, this one's 2022. They're showing this one as being 22 years old, that it was. So we had bought that as a secondary for email. I don't even know that I knew how old it was, but all the domains that I have that are associated with this, I made sure that we had real old domains to attach to. I really do think that there's an extreme benefit and enough to spend a considerable amount of money to do it. So you know, I don't want everybody to be ignorant to the age of a domain, and I'll tell you, you know, I may do an intellectual property talk at some point, because how domains work, and treating them like property. I have people that run in 2 days after their domain expires like it's nobody's business and come pay and renew. And at the end of the day, your domain should always be registered for no less than 5 years, period, end of story. Because if you intend to keep your business going, you should never come up against an expiration date on it. You should never take a chance that that domain would expire. I had one that they don't use us for an SEO company. They use us as a hosting company. But they've put in 15 years of SEO work on this thing, have AdWords running. And the only thing that we can figure is that the domain expired and in one day it was taken to China. Now, there's some things that lead me to believe that what had happened is it actually had expired the year earlier. But the fact of the matter that this lady didn't know that she had this investment and yet had all of this in her domain name is very concerning to me. I think there's a lot of apathy over what a domain is, how a domain needs to be registered, what needs to happen with it, and what needs to do to maintain it. But I'm here to tell you that everybody on your domain name should have at least 5 years. And if you don't, you need to consider doing it, and then put the reminder in your cell phone so that in a couple years you can go back and pump 5 more years at it. You never, ever want that to expire. And you sure don't want to have to go pay a Chinese hostage taker to keep your domain up to speed. And that is a real possibility. And I mean, like I said, I just had to help clean that up about a week ago. I knew, and I hope that they didn't go back to their original registration company. They're still hosted here and all, but I hope they didn't go back to the original registration company, because there are some registrars that will renew your domain, not suspend it. And at the end of a year, if you haven't figured out and come in and paid it, they go sell it at the black market. but you don't know that's going on. I know it's going on because I get the phone calls when it happens. But there are some that do that. And I think it's most people don't know they have to keep their domain name registered and renewed. And they don't even know. If I guarantee you, if I had a room of people and I said, what year does your domain renew? You couldn't answer that question. I know on every one of mine, I have some already out to 2030. Most of them expire anywhere between 2025 and 2020 and 2030 at this point. And I think it's important to know that. If you don't want to keep up with it, put it on auto renew. But then that requires you to keep your credit card up to date. And if you don't keep your credit card up to date, then it expires again. So, I mean, you have to take an active, as a business owner, you have to take an active role in this. And this is coming from Beth, the domain registration resolution department for some very large companies like Yahoo Domains and Squarespace and, Vistaprint. We get those domains get assigned to us when they expire and the customer has trouble. And for the longest time, I had one employee that was their only job, was to take domain complaints. And from somebody else that their domain didn't get paid for and somebody lost their domain. And not every registration company is following the rules. And the base rule is you have 5 days to renew your domain past its expiration before it theoretically can be given to somebody else. You have 14 days from the date of expiration before you're past the point of no return. There's some other benchmarks past that. And should you lapse out of that from past 30 days, the registry can sit down and hold that domain up to 90 days before you can ever reclaim it. So understand that you don't ever really want to find yourself in that place. And that, my domains are very long, age-wise. I mean, I have some that go back to 1998. So I've got some that are old now. And with that said, they'll never expire because I'm always going in and pumping years on them. Every time I think about it, I'm like, I'm in here. Let me go add years. You guys need to have a system to make sure that you're doing that because it's that important. Like I said, at some point, I think I probably need to have an intellectual property class with everybody so you understand what this all is and what it isn't. One other thing that I'm going to throw out here before I call it a day, and I might run this same class and pick up where we left off next month. I don't know. I haven't really decided yet. Domain authority. And this is kind of nebulous. Okay. And what I mean by that is that Google used to have what they call page rank. And they would rank a page 1 to 100, and it was specifically governed by links. So the more links you had, the higher your page rank was. And there was like breakpoints. So when you got to 100 domains, you would have, you'd have one set of things. When you got to 500 domains, you had another thing. Once you got over 1,000 domains, the credibility of the website started to increase. Okay. And I'm going to say root domains matter. I'm also going to say amount of pages off a root domain also matters. So that kind of something that fell out of grace, but I see a lot of websites now that have a lot of links from a certain spot, and I think it's helping buoy in them. But let's just stay with the concept of root domains for a second. So Google gave these scores, and then Google took it away because what they understood is that people were getting and buying and and manipulating links to move their page rank up so you could see it. And they say PageRank doesn't exist anymore. And I'm going to say I probably don't believe them. Okay. So there's some companies out there like Moz, like SEMrush, Hrefs came up with them. They've all come up with their own simulator of what a domain authority is. And it's all based on the backlinks. And you can kind of see it here on this bar here. This is my SERPworks bar, and I have it on it tells me, like, this is the VWeb website. Okay. It tells me that it's got a page authority of a 5. tells me that there's 3 links pointing to the home page. That tells me that I'm ranked on 9 keywords. I don't even know what they are. I have a blank website, so I don't know. And I don't know why it says there's 461 pages. I'll have to go look at that, because I think what it is something screwed up on the vertical website. So let me come back over to the vertical website. Okay. You'll see that this one has an authority of a 35 and a 31, meaning that the domain itself is a 35, the page itself is a 31. This company here says it's a 24 and a 26. And what you'll see is that I have 550 domains pointing to this page on this website. The links to the homepage, I have 59,000 links linking to this homepage, because they're coming in from all over the place that I have links and stuff through the years. So now this website's starting to get pretty powerful, and they don't consider the links that I have to be spammy. There are links from HP because of some of the tech support stuff we do. There are links from Linux because of the tech support stuff we do. There's some links from Wikipedia because I ended up in Wikipedia. There's links from all over the internet. Some of them have follow tags on them. Some of them have don't follow tags, and they're just as they explain. The link says follow and give credit, or Google, yes, there is a link to this, but I don't want you to give any credit to that page. I'm just letting you know that I vote for that page. All right. So we have quite a few pages. You'll see that they say we have 801 pages indexed. They say that we have, our website is listed on 1,300 keywords, which is fine. It's actually more than that. And you'll see that we have listed with 551 root domains. By the time I'm done doing everything I'm doing with shutting down my other 2 and consolidating these websites, I have to think that we'll have over 1,500 links. I think that this website's heading to become a juggernaut and be able to compete on levels that it wasn't able to compete being split up. So we're working on consolidating and bringing stuff in and shutting down the hosting website, shutting down the old SEO website, and bringing all our assets into one bucket. Because at the end of the day, the power of those, the domain authority, I would like to have a domain authority of a 55 or a 60 if possible, because that starts to put me on par with some of the larger companies out there. What I'll tell you is that, like, GoDaddy's a competitor in the loosest sense of the word, because the only thing that we do is they do hosting and we do hosting, but they're 2 different levels of anything. And let me see if this pulls up here. I don't know why it's not pulling up. Probably because it's not loading the page right. It should be given that SERPs works bar, but it's not for some reason. Let's go to Bluehost. Let's see if I get in on that one. Yeah, here we go. So you see where they have on links, they have on links to the homepage, they have 800,000 links to the homepage, and you see their authority is an 89. So that's, as I'm saying to you, I hope to get to a 55. Really, to even compete on par with these guys, I'd have to be at an 89. That's not even achievable at this point in my life. All right. I would be happy if I got to a 55 or a 60, because at the end of the day, Google's going to start kind of looking at this in this way, and they're going to say, okay, you're a 60, they're an 89, so we're going to put them higher. Your content's more relative, so maybe we'll put you higher. So this starts to, but in order to compete in the web business, you can't have a website with an authority of a 10 or a 20. So if you're a local CPA and you're a 20, great, you're doing awesome. If you're a web hosting company, you're not doing awesome, because you got to go compete against like somebody like this. So anyway, I will be happy if the dust settles and I have 1,500 root domains. That would make me pretty freaking happy. And I suspect that I'll end up with a reasonable amount of authority. And how I'm building authority is basically the level of the links and the type of the links that I have pointing back to the website. With that said, we are at 1 o'clock, so it's time to call it a day. I may continue down this list because this list gives a lot of perspective to a lot of things. And it gives me the opportunity to talk to you about things that I may not have necessarily ever truly touched on. So I think I'm going to kind of keep coming down this list because I think that there's a lot to learn historically from all of this. And I think there's a lot of tools that you can walk away with and figure out what you're doing with if you, I don't know if everybody's agreeable with that, but I think I probably have another couple hundred items on this list that I could go down and keep going. So if we're good, let's call this part 1 and maybe we'll do part 2 next month and kind of keep going. Does that sound like a good idea? Keep going. Are we learning enough or we need a different topic?
I like it. I think I'm getting a lot of good information out of this.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll stick with this and we'll keep this as a June topic then. And we'll pick up in the D's. We got to get to the Z's. So we got a long way to go. So, okay.
Right, thank
All
you
right,
so
then I'll
much.
see everybody next month. You have a great month, and we're always here if anybody needs any help or has any questions. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye. That's a wrap for this week's Internet Marketing Clinic. We'll see you next week. Thank you.